So the Steam Summer Sale is finally upon us, and with that being said, there are plenty of great games with a hefty discount. No matter if you love games that you can bond with your friends, games with an engaging world to explore, or games with a fascinating story to unfold, I believe there will be something that will spark your interest. So today I'll be sharing some must-play games worth checking out at the Steam Summer Sale of 2025. Let's check it out. So let's start out with Elden Ring. Elden Ring originally was $60, but with a 40% discount, it is now $36. Elden Ring is a masterpiece, an RPG challenging game with tough enemies, tough bosses, as well as a beautiful world to roam around. What's cool about Elden Ring is that there are a whopping 10 different classes to choose from, which brings about a diverse variety of how you will experience and feel in Elden Ring. So the gameplay possibilities are pretty much endless, and not to mention there is also a vast open world environment that is also engaging, intriguing, and interesting to explore as well. On top of this, what I also love about Elden Ring is that there are various multiplayer modes. You can choose to do, 3-player co-op in which you and 2 other friends just go about this open world to tackle the environment and whatnot, as well as you also get to do those PvP duels. So yeah, if you really love open world games which has tough enemies, tough bosses, as well as there is a amazing world to explore and where the possibilities are endless, definitely check out Elden Ring on your Steam Deck. Once again, Elden Ring originally was $60, but with a 40% discount, it is now only $36. Now up next is Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 was originally $60, but with a 65% discount, it is now $21. This game is a first-person action RPG game set in the fictional futuristic city called Night City, where there are tons of danger. What I love about Cyberpunk 2077 is the beautiful world that you get to explore, which is extremely immersive. It just feels as if I'm currently out and about, whether it is on a mission out of civilization or doing business in a city and roaming around. As well as, I really love how there is a diverse amount of weapons, skills, and abilities. And on top of that, a diverse of things to do in Cyberpunk 2077. You can hack, you can engage in dialogue options, as well as do many more. So yeah, if you love these action games that are flashy and have interesting characters to engage with, as well as a beautiful landscape and having so much to do, definitely check out Cyberpunk 2077 on your Steam Deck. Once again, Cyberpunk 2077 was originally $60, but with a whopping 65% discount, it is now only $21. Now up next is Kena Bridge of Spirits. Kena Bridge of Spirits originally was $40, but with a 60% discount, it is now only $16. Kena Bridge of the Spirit is a beautiful game where there is a vibrant world to explore. There are various engaging enemies to fight, various puzzles to solve, as well as bosses that keep you on your toes at all times. Now, as far as Kena Bridge of the Spirit goes, you get to play as Kena, who is a spirit guide, and where it is your job to heal those who are traumatized, because according to the Kena Bridge of the Spirit world, when one is traumatized, they will get into this realm that is in between the actual realm as well as the spirit realm, and you as Kena must rid of the corruption of the different individuals to help them to move on and basically be able to restore them and help them find healing. It is a game in which, in my opinion, not only is the gameplay really engaging, but also what I really love about Kena Bridge of the Spirits is the emotional aspects it brings. Because, like I said, where she helps the different characters to be able to find healing and breakthrough from their traumas, that is something that me personally can get easily touched by the different stories that the game brings, by learning about those different characters, empathizing with the different characters of their different struggles and whatnot. It is a game that speaks to me in many different ways. So yeah, if you really love a game where there is this kind of cartoon-like vibe, and where you also love games that has a whole bunch of action and where it speaks to you in many different ways, definitely check out Kena Bridge of the Spirits on the Steam Deck. Once again, Kina Bridge of Spirits originally was $40, but with a 60% discount, it is now only $16. Now up next is Spider-Man Remastered. Spider-Man Remastered originally was $60, but with a 50% discount, it is now only $30. Spider-Man 2018, you get to play as Peter Parker, who has to balance his personal life with things that matter the most to him, as well as defending New York City from a deadly virus. What I really love about Spider-Man 2018 is that you get to fight hordes of enemies in this open world action adventure in Manhattan, New York, as well as what I really love about Spider-Man 2018 is the iconic antagonists that they brought from the various movies as well as TV shows. That is something that I feel like is really cool, that I get to play as a character to fight off those different antagonists and beat them. It's just really fun, as well as what I really love about Spider-Man 2018, since this is a open world action game, is that I also love to roam around, engage in those various side quests as you go about and help those people in town. It just brings about the vibe of the city and whatnot, as well as also love the different main quests, the different side activities where you go about and doing those different challenges, such as doing the bomb challenge, combat challenge, to name a few, as well as going to those warehouses and fight those different waves of enemies. It's just a game in which it is just so fun and so vibrant and whatnot, as well as also love to just swing around in the city, just marveling at the amazing landscape of Manhattan. If you are somebody who loves open world games and you love action games where there is so many things to do in the game, as well as you also be able to experience an awesome story, definitely check out Spider-Man 2018 on the Steam Deck. Once again, Spider-Man Remastered originally was $60, but with a 50% discount, it is now $30. Now up next is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was $60, but with a 60% discount, it is now a whooping $24. Now, No Man's Sky is an action-adventure galaxy game where you get to explore, you get to engage in combat, you also get to go around and mine and obtain various resources, as well as you get to build various bases. It is a really fun game where you can easily pick up and drop whenever, whether you want to play with your friends or play by yourself. It is something that is just really fun and really engaging if you're somebody who just loves these type of survival games where you get to explore the environment in a galaxy world. So yeah, No Man's Sky, once again, it is now $24 due to a 60% discount. Now up next is Creatures of Ava. Creatures of Ava originally was $25, but with a 40% discount, it is now only $15. In this game, you get to play as Vic, who's on a planet called, you know it, Ava. In this game, you get to clear the land from corruption known as the Withering, as well as in the meantime tame various creatures from the Withering, in which clears the corruption in their minds and helps them to no longer be foes but friends to you. Now, once you clear different various creatures, the corruption in their minds, you can play your flute to basically guide them to the nearest rescue robot station in order to transport them to your ship with the goal of preserving the various species. Also, each animal that you restore them to their normal state where they become your friend, they all have their own strengths and weaknesses where they can overcome certain obstacles to get into certain areas where you normally cannot do on your own. And what's cool about that is you actually am able to get into a mode where you'll be able to play as the specific animal and control the actual animal as if it was you, and where you overcome the certain obstacle and be able to access certain areas that you cannot access before. So that's something that is really cool, as well as there are also a lot of side quests as well as main quests that are also intriguing as well, and where as you progress in the story, you will also be able to earn certain tools and certain abilities where they will help you also access certain areas that you normally cannot do before. So yeah, it is just really fun, really cool, as well as really engaging. Now, another thing that's really cool about Creatures of Ava is that since you're on the mission to save the different animals from the corruption, you get to document each and every one of those creatures, no matter if it is the ones that you already tamed or those that are still in the wild. You can do so by taking out your in-game camera and capturing a shot of the various animals. And once you capture a shot of the various animals, there will be details which will be recorded about the specific type of animal that you captured. It is a really cool game with vibrant colors. There are also really cute characters and whatnot. So yeah, if all that sounds really interesting to you, if you love these type of adventure games where there are no bloodshed and where you feel like you are making a difference, definitely check out Creatures of Ava on the Steam Deck. Once again, Creatures of Ava originally was $25, but with a 40% discount, it is now only $15. Now up next is Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2, you can choose between the standard or the ultimate edition, where the standard edition was originally $60, but with a 75% discount, it is now only $15. Now, as far as the ultimate edition goes, it originally was $100, but with an 80% discount, it is now only $20. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an action-adventure game set in the fictional Wild West 1899, in the sense that the aesthetics, they bring about this picture of what the Wild West of America is like, but at the same time, the lands, the names, and whatnot, they are fictional. As far as combat side of things, you can engage in melee combat, firearms combat, using bow and arrow, as well as using dual-wield weapons, and many more. As well as what I really love is that there are also a whole bunch of different side activities, such as dueling, bounty hunting, just to name a few. So yeah, if you really love action games where there is an interesting story as well as where there are just a lot of things to do, definitely check out Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Steam Deck. Once again, as far as Red Dead Redemption 2, you can choose between whether you want to go with the standard edition or the ultimate edition. The standard edition originally cost $60, but with a 75% discount, it is now only $15. Now, as far as the ultimate edition goes, it originally was $100, but with an 80% discount, it is now only $20. Now, up next is Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima originally was $60, but with a 33% discount, it is now only $40.19. This game is a action adventure game where you get to play as Jin Sakai, a samurai, where him and his uncle Lord Shimura starts out, fighting off those different Mongols on the beach. However, they are severely defeated, where Jin miraculously is saved and Lord Shimura is captured by the Kotu Khan, which is the leader of the Mongols, and held hostage. Now you as Jin, since you love your uncle Lord Shimura, and where Lord Shimura is the only family member that is still alive, you decide to go on this mission to save your uncle. However, little did you know that as you go on this mission, it becomes much more than saving your uncle. As you go about this mission to save your uncle, along with those people around you who support and believe in you, you end up doing much more than saving your uncle, but also learn yourself more. Learn that it's really important to save people instead of being strict and religious in the samurai code of honor. It's just a very emotional story about friendship and doing all it takes to save those around you, to care for those around you, to value life to its fullest. Now, what I really love about Ghost of Tsushima is the side activities that you get to do. The side quest called Tales of Tsushima, even though it is optional, but I highly recommend playing all those Tales of Tsushima, experiencing them to the fullest, because you get to understand those different stories as you bond with those different people around you that mean a lot to you. As well as what I also love is how there is a deep lore in those mystic tales and whatnot. And also what I really enjoy is, on top of that, there are also a lot of things to do in the open world aspect of Ghost of Tsushima, whether it is engaging in those bamboo strikes, as as well as going into those different hot springs and just reflecting on life. It just brings about those different immersion in this beautiful world of Tsushima Island. As well as what I really love about Iki Island, which is the DLC that is included in Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, is that it also further brings about Jin's healings from his past wounds. That is also something that's just really emotional. But anyways, if you really love action games where there is a lot of things to do in the game and where there's an emotional story that really teaches you a lot about life and speaks to you in many different ways, definitely check out Ghost of Tsushima on the Steam Deck. Once again, Ghost of Tsushima originally was $60, but with a 33% discount, it is now only $40.19. Now, up next is Metaphor ReFantazio. Metaphor ReFantazio originally was $70, but with 40% discount, it is now only $42. Metaphor ReFantazio is a turn-based RPG game by Atlas, who is also the studio for Persona games. So if you really enjoy Persona, you will most likely also love Metaphor as well. What Metaphor does right, in my opinion, is borrowing a lot of what Persona did and adding some spin to it and matching it with an adult version with adult themes. Metaphor ReFantazio is about how a kingdom named Uchronia, which is in a mess because the king was being killed by an army officer named Luis, and a magic which is unique called a royal magic, hence the name due to it only previously known to the king, is being invoked. With the prince being a victim to the spell and in a coma, but assumed dead by the people, and now the actual king dead, this leads to chaos in Uchronia. Now, in order to determine who will be the next king, obviously because the king is dead and the prince is now in a coma, and where everybody thinks that the prince is dead as well, they don't know who will be the next king. So they decide to issue a royal tournament which ensures the individual who manages to get the most followers, the most people to believe in him or her, if they get the most amount of followers before the due date of the crowning of a new king, they will succeed to be the successor to the throne. Now, you as the protagonist enter the royal tournament. In the meantime, you study along with the team that you meet along the way and recruit along the way the methods in order to free the prince from the spell. Much of Metaphor involves basically traveling to those various lands of Uchronia to grow one's influence. This can be achieved by speaking on stage, engaging in various bounty hunting where you go about those different dungeons or those different towers and you fight around those different enemies. But then there's also another thing that you get to do in Metaphor is you get to form those various bonds with key characters called followers in Metaphor ReFantazio and leveling them up to better your chances of fighting, but also this helps in growing your influence as well. As for combat, Metaphor also shines with the studying of various archetypes which serve as classes in RPG games. The archetypes can be learned by each character, can be swapped and whatever and changed to accompany those different enemy strengths and weaknesses, whether it is in a dungeon, climbing up a tower, going in the desert, and so forth. There's a variety of different landscapes in which you fight those different enemies, and where there's all these different backgrounds that just looks so much different and paints a perfect picture of how the United Kingdom may look like if it was during those medieval times. And what I also love about Metaphor as well is the character development aspect to it. Like the Persona games, there is also this thing about leveling up those different followers. I mean, they call it followers here as opposed to bonds, but you get the same point. I mean, the major thing is that every single character in which I level up, they all have a unique story to tell in which they can relate to me one way or the other. And throughout the various encounters, there's those numerous plot twists, the many dialogues, as well as the amount of weight the protagonist carry in loving those around him. He really motivates me to become a better person, to become a better leader, and to serve those people that I am entrusted to. Someone who serves others instead of demanding to be served. Someone who doesn't misuse his power to control, but to empower others to take leadership in their own atmospheres of influence. I could go on and on about Metaphor because I love this game to death. And FYI, I actually have a review sharing my thoughts about Metaphor ReFantazio where I go all in and deep dive about the game and whatnot. So if that interests interests you, feel free to check it out. But once again, Metaphor ReFantazio originally was $70, but with a 40% discount, it is now only $42. Now up next is God of War 2018. God of War 2018 originally was $50, but with a 60% discount, it is now only $20. God of War 2018 is a fun, action-packed adventure game with an amazing story where you play as Kratos, the iconic God of War franchise figure whose wife Faye passes away, leaving just him and his son Atreus as part of the family. Now, to give one last honor to his wife Faye, Kratos and Atreus goes about on a journey to the highest point of the 9 realms based on Norse mythology to spread the ashes of Faye. Throughout the journey, there are plenty of moments where Kratos taught Atreus how to grow and mature into a man both physically and mentally, such as helping him learn how to hunt as well as learn to control his anger, and those moments are extremely impactful. As for the action side of things, there are plenty of enemies to fight using various weapons such as the Leviathan Axe and later the Blades of Chaos, each having their own strengths and weaknesses. It is just so immersive and so engaging and so fun as well as so touching. But what I also love about God of War 2018 is that it also incorporates those RPG elements where you get to tinker your gear as well as learn new skills in fighting. So yeah, if you really love these action-packed games with an impactful story and a beautiful world where you get to get immersed in, definitely check out God of War 2018 on your Steam Deck. Once again, God of War 2018 originally was $50, but with a 60% discount, it is now only $20. Now up next is Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal originally was $60, but with a 60% discount, it is now only $24. In Persona 5 Royal, you play as a high school protagonist codenamed Joker who is wrongfully accused of special misconduct and sent to Shuten Academy for an entire school year due to probation. At the school, he gets to meet new friends, and suddenly they all witnessed a mysterious app being planted in their phones which give them access to the metaverse, aka the cognitive realm of corrupt adults, where the friends must fight the shadows in there and quote-unquote steal their treasure, which forces a change of heart in which the individual will confess his or her crimes in real life. What I love about this game is that it is a perfect blend between turn-based RPG as well as high school simulation, because the thing about Persona 5 Royal is that even though a lot of it involves you going in those different dungeons where you fight those different shadows to cause a change of heart in those different corrupt adults, but also a lot of the game involves you being a high school student going to school, studying, as well as taking those different tests where you're able to increase and rank up those different stats. And what I also really love about Persona 5 Royal is to spend time with your friends. It really teaches me and motivates me on how I can be a light to my friends and how I can be somebody who can be a better leader in my circle of influence. Before playing Persona 5 Royal, I know many of you are like me who do not like to look at gameplay and do not like to look at that because you're afraid of getting spoilers. I get it, but for this game, in order to be somebody who wants to experience the maximum amount of fun, you have to look online to see at least which specific characters you have to prioritize in building relationship in, because if you don't, then you will end up having the same exact ending to the original game that was released back in 2016. So that is just something that is worth noting. But anyways, if you are somebody who loves these JRPG games where there is a whole bunch of fighting, where there is also a whole bunch of great characters as well as an amazing story where it brings about all these different life lessons that will speak to you in many different ways, and you also love games that have amazing soundtracks that bring about extra spice to the vibe of the game, definitely check out Persona 5 Royal on the Steam Deck. Once again, Persona 5 Royal originally was $60, but with a 60% discount, it is now only $24. Now up next is Sonic X Shadow Generations. Sonic X Shadow Generations originally was $50, but with 40% discount, it is now $30. Sonic X Shadow Generations is basically 2 for the price of 1, baby! Sonic X Shadow Generations includes both Sonic Generations, which was originally released in 2011 to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of the Sonic franchise back in the day, and with this bundle, it also includes this new game called Shadow Generations, which is really cool as well because it is the first time after 19 freaking years of not seeing Shadow the Hedgehog as the main protagonist. The last time we saw Shadow the Hedgehog as a main protagonist was back in 2005 when Sega released Shadow the Hedgehog. That was back in the day, and Sonic X Shadow Generations just got released late in 2024, so we're looking at 19 freaking years of no Shadow the Hedgehog as main protagonist. So it's great to see that finally we have another title where Shadow the Hedgehog is as the main protagonist again. I mean, Sonic games, for me, it just brings back a lot of nostalgia. I grew up as a kid playing Sonic Adventure back on the Sega Dreamcast, and it just brings about this childlikeness vibe of the franchise, and it's just really nice to have both these old and as well as newer Sonic games in one package. It's just something that is just really cool as somebody who loves to preserve games and love to play those older classics from time to time, but also don't want to bust out the older console. But anyways, if you really love Sonic and you continuously am a Sonic fan, as well as if you really love fluid cartoon-like worlds that have platforming and adventure and whatnot, definitely check out Sonic X Shadow Generations on the Steam Deck. Once again, Sonic X Shadow Generations originally was $50, but with 40% discount, it is now only $30. Now up next is Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves originally was $40, but with 65% discount, it is now only $14. Sea of Thieves is a major pirate game where you get to go around and obtain lost treasures, and where you can engage in intense battles as well as demolish monsters on the sea and many more as a pirate. It is a really fun, engaging multiplayer game in which you and your friends get to explore this open world and also look for different resources such as food to restore your health, like bananas and mangoes to name a few, as well as you can also go about in this open world environment at your disposal to find crucial weaponry in order to restock, firebombs as well as cannonballs. Yeah, it is a really beautiful world to explore and live the pirate life. So if all that sounds really interesting and engaging to you, as well as you love a game in which you can easily pick up and drop whenever, like somebody like me who likes to play a lot of single player games and want to play these type of games just to hang out with their friends and explore and marvel at the game, but at the same time do not want to commit to have to play it a certain amount of hours, can play as little and as much as you want, definitely check out Sea of Thieves on the Steam Deck. Once again, Sea of Thieves originally was $40, but with a 65% discount, it is now only $14. Now up next is Judgement. Judgement originally was $40, but with a 70% discount, it is now only $12. In this game, you get to play as Takayuki Yagami, a former lawyer and current detective who is trying to solve the case of a series of murder incidences in Kamurocho, a fictional Tokyo district. There are really cool, interesting, engaging plot twists, various side stories which keep me on my toes, as well as there are really interesting and fun encounters with gangs that I can beat up while roaming around, similar to the various Yakuza games. What's unique about Judgement, however, is the fact about mortal wounds. The thing about mortal wounds, they occur when you get hit by those various enemies where they do various damages to Yagami, your character, and where if you get those mortal wounds, it will permanently decrease your maximum health, in which in order for you to recover your fullest potential of maximum health, you must do two different options. One, either find treatment from an underground doctor, or two, buy medical kits to use in order to restore your maximum health. So that is a gameplay element that I really like, that in which it is really unique. It just brings about this kind of strategy. It brings about this kind of thing in which you gotta be careful about not getting damaged by those tough enemies. It is something that's just really, really important to note. So yeah, if you are a person like me who loves a really engaging thriller story, as well as you love games where the story, the characters and all that speak to you in many different ways, as well as you really love these games where there are a unique type of gameplay style where there is extra spice to it, definitely check out Judgement on the Steam Deck. Once again, Judgement originally was $40, but with a 70% discount, it is now only $12. Now up next is Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment originally was $60, but with a 70% discount, it is now $18. Lost Judgment, in this game, you play as Takayuki Yagami, an ex-lawyer who is now a detective and who has to investigate a bully/suicide case that is primarily based in a high school. Now, what I love about Lost Judgment is that there are plenty of unexpected plot twists, as well as a very thrilling adventure that you get to embark in. I also love where you get to go around those Japanese streets while beating up various thugs, as well as what I also love is that there are plenty of side things to do, most notably the side quests as well as school stories. In Lost Judgment, when you embark on those different side quests, there are many, not all the side quests, but many of the side quests, they will not open up unless you access an app on your phone where you navigate and track down something before the side quest is being able to access. So that is something that I find is really cool because it really shows the life of how a detective ought to operate. A detective a lot of times has to find different cues in order to solve different mysteries. Now, the side quests, they also have different stories that are really touching. It just brings a lot of different valuable lessons that really teach me in different ways and speaks to me in different ways, as well as I also love going in with the school stories because Yagami, in case you don't know, he is somebody that is about 40 years old, and as those different high school kids, it may be hard for him to relate to the high school kids because people in the Gen X generation and the Gen Zs, they are much different as far as technology goes, as far as lifestyle goes. So what I really love about this game with Yagami as far as the school story goes is that he really is submerging his life to understand the people that are younger, the younger people also teaching him different ways of living and him also motivating the kids to also become a better person, to mature better in life because he has obviously been living life much longer than them. So that is something that I also find really precious in the school stories, is that I'm somebody who may be in their early 30s, but at the same time I can learn from people that are much younger, but I also can be somebody who learn from people that are much older. There are always these type of value that various generations bring. One thing I don't like about Lost Judgment is that they took away some features from the previous game Judgment. I mean, one notable thing that I loved about Judgment was where there is this health bar where if Yagami gets wounded to a certain point, it will deplete his maximum health and he needs to go find a cure by an underground doctor or just heal it by finding specific aid kits and stuff. I won't give you any spoilers. All I'm gonna say is that is something that I really loved in the first game, and I am just really disappointed that it didn't include that in the second game. But anyways, if you are somebody who loves those Yakuza games and you love going around fighting up these different thugs, you like these type of action type of games, as well as you love games that speak to you in many different ways, definitely check out Lost Judgment on the Steam Deck. Once again, Lost Judgment originally was $60, but with a 70% discount, it is now only $18. Now up next is Halo Masterchief Collection. Halo Masterchief Collection originally was $40, but with a 75% discount, it is now only $10. Halo Masterchief Collection is 6 for the price of 1, baby, where it includes 6 classic Halo games: Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo Reach, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, as well as Halo 4. What I really love about Halo Master Chief Collection is that it is just really iconic. It just brings back the vibes of the classic games that I enjoy back in the day. Those really fun first-person shooter games that just brings about all these different types of memories. Halo Master Chief Collection, in my opinion, they are also the best games in the Halo franchise. They just basically identify what the Halo games ought to be. So the major thing is that if you are somebody who's a long-time Halo fan, you must check out Halo Master Chief Collection. If you are somebody who just wants to kind of hop into the Halo franchise, you must check out the Halo Masterchief collection. It is just something in which it is just so mind-blowing, so amazing, and where it's really great to be able to play on the Steam Deck and play on the go whenever possible. Once again, Halo Masterchief collection originally was $40, but with a 75% discount, it is now $10. Now up next is Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal originally was $40, but with a 75% discount, it is now $10. Doom Eternal, this is a first-person shooter game where you play as the Doom Slayer in a futuristic world overrun by demons. What I love about this game is that you get to brutally engage in chaotic fights, as well as you use that to acquire health, ammo, and armor. It is a game in which it is really important in this gameplay aspect, as well as what I love about Doom is that you get to use different types of guns. You can use the ballista, you can use the heavy cannon, to just name a few, as well as there's also these melee weapons like the Doom Blade, the Crucible, all these different cool weapons that you get to use to your own advantage. So yeah, if you really love these type of first-person shooters where there is a beautiful world where you get to fight those different hordes of enemies and where you gotta be on your toes at every moment, and there are always enemies where it is just so chaotic and whatnot, definitely check out Doom Eternal on the Steam Deck. Once again, Doom Eternal originally was $40, but with a 75% discount, it is now $10. Now up next is Hades. Hades originally was $25, but with a 66% discount, it is now $8.49. Hades is a roguelike dungeon crawler game where you play as Zagreus, who is the son of, you know it, Hades. Since Hades is a very unforgiving father and Zagreus is tired of his father, he decides that he wants to escape the underworld. So you as Zagreus, you have to do all it takes to escape the underworld in order to get to the mortal world in order to reside with your mother. What I really love about Hades is the hack and slash element. I love just going in there and fighting various hordes of enemies, as well as what I really love about Hades is also the different interesting boss fights that you got to do in order to progress in the underworld. So that is something that is also very interesting and very engaging, as well as really love the soundtrack of Hades. The music just brings about the vibe of the atmosphere of the game and what's going on in the game. So yeah, if you really love a beautiful indie roguelike dungeon crawler game, definitely check out Hades on the Steam Deck. Once again, Hades originally was $25, but with a 66% discount, it is now $8.49. Now up next is Sunset Overdrive. Sunset Overdrive originally was $20, but with a whooping 80% discount, it is now only $4. Sunset Overdrive is an open-world futuristic game set in the year 2027. In this game, you get to freely explore this fictional city called, you know it, Sunset City, and where as you go around in parkour style, you can wall run, you can grind rails, you can zip line, air dash, and many more. And while you're doing that, what's really cool is you also get to fight those different enemies called mutants, which are basically humans that were transformed after taking an energy drink made by Fizco. And so that is something that is just really fun, really chaotic, and where there are also plenty of weapons that you get to use using a weapon wheel, where there are just various weapons that you can customize and whatnot to better take down those different mutants. And what I really love about Sunset Overdrive also is there are plenty of things to do in the game, whether it is going about the story campaign, as well as, you know, different side quests, which brings about the value of this really engaging, really chaotic open world game. On top of the main quests and side quests, I also love how there are also a whole bunch of side activities to do in Sunset Overdrive, such as the challenges. They are just so amazing, in which they work like a test to test your skills on how well you can manage and play in the game to survive in this open world game full of mutants. Even though Sunset Overdrive is listed as unsupported, with easy tinkering steps pretty much found on ProtonDB, the game will run perfectly fine. So yeah, if you really love open world games where there are chaotic enemies to fight and where you are on your feet at all times while exploring a fictional city, definitely check out Sunset Overdrive on the Steam Deck. Once again, Sunset Overdrive originally was $20, but with an 80% discount, it is now $4. $10. Now up next is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, you can choose between getting the standard edition or the complete edition, where the standard edition, which just includes the base game, originally cost $40, but with an 80% discount, it is now only $8. Now, if you want to choose the complete edition, which includes the 2 DLCs, the Blood and Wine DLC, as well as the Hearts of Stone DLC, you can pay an extra $2, so that will only cost $10, and in my opinion, the complete edition is the better value, but that's just my personal opinion. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. What I really love about it is that there is a vast open world where it is really lively. There's a variety of the busy city life where you can do a lot of different things, as well as there's also wild areas flooded with danger. There's a variety of these different stuffs in this vast open world. In this game, you get to play as a monster slayer known as the Witcher, and where you can travel on foot, by boat, by horse, just as a few examples. And there are tons of side things to do, such as horse racing, boxing, romancing females after completing certain quests, as well as you get to visit different blacksmiths where you get to craft better weapons. If you love these type of open world games where there's a lot of things to do and there's a vibrant world to explore, as well as there is a great story and whatnot, definitely check out The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on the Steam Deck. Once again, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, you can choose between whether you want to go with the standard edition, which just comes with the base game and where it originally cost $40, but with an 80% discount, it is now $8, or you can choose to go with the complete edition, which includes the 2 DLCs, Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone DLC for an extra $2, so you will only spend $10. So I highly recommend you to go with the complete edition. It's only $10. Now up next is It Takes Two. Doesn't take one, doesn't take three, but It Takes Two. It Takes Two originally cost $40, but with a 75% discount, it is now only $10. In this game, you and your friend get to play as a couple where they are on the brink of divorce, and where you and your friend must solve those different puzzles, which will help each of you realize how much you two need each other and have a different perspective on the relationship, and try to mend the relationship and restore it and into a point where you want to stay as family and you do not want to divorce anymore. What I really love about It Takes Two is how well it is presented, both visually as well as emotionally. As far as the visuals go, I just love how there are these fascinating visuals, which brings about the vibe of these Pixar movies, because as a kid, I really loved watching those Pixar movies. It is a timeless thing, in my opinion, where there's just this beautiful artistic world, which is childlike and cartoon-like and full of imagination. As far as how I feel emotionally about this game is as me and my friend go about playing those two characters and go about, overcoming those different obstacles, overcoming those different challenges, overcoming those different puzzles, as well as engaging in those various mini games. It really makes me want to cheer for the couple in which they receive healing, decides to reconcile to each other in the relationship and restore it, and where they are not just staying together because of their daughter, but also, more importantly, they're staying together because they believe that it is important to keep their bond, that they are meant to be together, rely on each other to encourage and build each other up. So yeah, if you really love these type of games in which not only the visuals are just really pleasing, and where you also really love how the game can potentially speak to you in many different ways, definitely check out It Takes Two on the Steam Deck. Once again, It Takes Two originally cost $40, but with a 75% discount, it is now only $10. Now up next is Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition originally was $20, but with a whooping 85% discount, it is now only $3. In this game, you get to play as Wei Shen, who is an undercover cop who is on the mission to infiltrate the strongest triad in Hong Kong. What I love about Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition is that there are plenty of things to do. You can just drive around town, engage on various missions, whether it is the triad missions, whether it is the cop missions, whether it is just regular civilian side missions. There's just so many different variety of missions that you can do throughout the streets of Hong Kong. And what I also really love about Sleeping Dogs is that how, even though it has the vibes and aesthetics, in my opinion, kind of like GTA games, that's just my personal opinion, but what I really love about Sleeping Dogs is that it is more lenient towards melee combat instead of firearms combat, which to me is just really cool. Another thing that I also love about Sleeping Dogs is that it also has this Asian vibe. As somebody who is Asian, I kind of like that because it kind of just relates to me, even though I am not an undercover cop. But it's just cool to see games where when there are those dialogues where people speak in Chinese. It's just really cool to see that from time to time. But don't worry, even if you don't know how to understand Chinese, like if you don't know the language, you can still be able to play it, because as far as the game goes, the main story as well as the side quests and all that, most of it still has English in it. And whenever the characters speak in Chinese, there always will be English subtitles down there. So don't need to worry, even though some of the dialogue is in Chinese, but you will still be able to understand what's going on in the Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. But anyways, if you really love, cop games, you love open world action games where there's a lot of things to do and where you can just go around and treat the city as if it is your city, definitely check out Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition on the Steam Deck. Once again, Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition originally was $20, but with an 85% discount, it is now $3. Now up next is Don't Starve Together. Don't Starve Together originally was $15, but with a 66% discount, it is now $5.09. Don't Starve Together is a multiplayer expansion to the survival game Don't Starve. In this game, you get to play with up to 5 other friends. Basically, you get to work together to gather different resources, to build, to explore, and basically do all it takes to survive the harsh wilderness. It is a really engaging, cartoon-like cooperative game in which I would recommend anybody who is looking for a challenging survival game to check out on the Steam Deck. Once again, Don't Starve Together originally was $15, but with a 66% discount, it is now $5.09. Now up next is Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley originally was $15, but with a 50% discount, it is now $7.49. In this game, you get to create a character where he or she inherits the land and a house in a small village called Pelican Town, which is located in, Stardew Valley. What's cool about this game is that you get to engage in your imagination of what life ought to be as if you are working in the farmland, whether it is going fishing, whether it is cooking, whether it is crafting, or exploring procedurally generated caves to fight off various enemies, which are also adorable by the way, and also collect those various resources to tame your farm and to live your life for the better. What I also love about Stardew Valley is you get to engage and make various friends with different NPCs in town, kind of like how if you lived on a farmland, everybody kind of just becomes friends with everybody, and it just brings about that kind of vibe, this kind of farm life simulation. As well as what I also love about Stardew Valley is that you also will be able to plant different crops, which is also realistic as well, because as you consume the different foods, it will grant various buffs which help you to be more energized and tackle on certain activities throughout the day. So yeah, if you really love farm simulation games where your imagination is just endless, where you create the story of the game and where you imagine to be somebody who is living in a farm-like village, definitely check out Stardew Valley on the Steam Deck. Once again, Stardew Valley originally was $15, but with a 50% discount, it is now $7.49. But yeah, friends, these are a handful of games in which I'll recommend any Steam Deck owner to check out in the Steam Summer Sale of 2025. Let me know in the comment section below, are there any games in in which you are interested to pick up in the Steam Summer Sale 2025. And as always, if you love gaming lists, gaming reviews, gaming discussions, and everything related to the Steam Deck, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so you'll not miss another video. I try to post Mondays and Fridays around 6 p.m. Pacific time, so stay tuned. Once again, my name is Joey for the Nomadic Gaming Guild, and game on!